Good evening, everybody. Good to see y'all again. One of the things for today's video, the topic I'm going to be discussing is a little bit of a controversial one in the gun world. Some of you may agree with it wholeheartedly. Some of you might reject it wholeheartedly. But the thing to keep in mind is I try to be as objective as I can and not necessarily biased to one side or the other. But I'm also very logical and factual. So it may sound like opinion, and yeah, I might base my opinion on those facts, but I don't base the facts on my opinion. Okay, so bear that in mind as we get into this video. The topic of today's video is going to be restoration and refinishing of firearms. Should you or should you not do it? And we're going to get into why, some of the pros and cons, and things like that. So the first thing that I want to talk about is, should you or shouldn't you? It all depends on what you're trying to do with your guns. If you're trying to just turn them around and sell them for a quick profit, you picked up an old shotgun for $100 at a yard sale that you found out's worth $500. Should you completely redo it, restore it, all that? In that case, I would say no, because there's this notion out there that, and it's kind of an age-old notion, it's been around for generations, that original patina and matching numbers and all that type of stuff is better. And because of that idea, although I disagree with it, it is kind of the standard. So refinishing, restoring, all that will devalue your gun. However, if it's a family heirloom and it's something that you bought when you were a kid, or was handed down to you from your grandfather or great-grandfather or whatever, and you want to hand it down to your kids and grandkids and so on and so forth, then absolutely you should restore it. You should refinish it, whether that's rebluing, rebrowning, or parkerizing. Any of them are better than just leaving it rust. Okay, because what the thing about it is that guns are a man-made product, right? Just like a car, and nothing man-made lasts forever. Okay, and in relation to the car scenario, let me pitch this to you. Okay, you have, let's say you find an old car in a barn, an old Corvette or something. Okay, maybe it's completely original. It's been in the barn pretty much its whole life. It's got 5,000 original miles on it. I mean, the thing's cherry, right? Is finding like something like that ideal? Yeah, it is. But at the same time, what are the chances of that? I mean, more than likely, what you're going to find, if you find an old cool car like that, is it's probably going to be in a junkyard or having sat in the back 40 or something like that for a while, and it's going to need restoration. There's nothing wrong with restoring it. Is it as cool as original? No, it's not. But at the same time, it's better than it just sitting around or, being sold for scrap metal. And it's kind of the same thing with guns. There's this notion that, patina and matching numbers is what matters most in a gun, and it's not. What matters most in a gun is functionality. And in order to keep it functioning correctly, you have to be able to replace parts as needed and also refinish it so that it doesn't get corroded with rust and different things. Because rust is kind of like cancer. It keeps spreading until you stop it, right? Until you remove it. It does so very microscopically, but rust will spread and will get bigger over time if you don't take care of it. And that's part of what bluing and parkerizing and browning does. So those are all very good options. Any of them are better than just leaving it, covered in rust. We have this, there's this notion that, it's fine. They have no problem with you repainting an old car, but God forbid you reblue an old gun. And I don't understand it, because they both, it's a matter of preserving guns. It used to be years ago, back in the 30s and 40s and before gun control, control, which I mean, I'm not a fan of gun control. To me, all gun laws are infringements. I'm not saying they're not. I'm not arguing that. But because of how tight some of the gun laws have gotten, it's not necessarily the case anymore where you just, your gun breaks, you set it in the closet, go buy a new one. Okay, it's not that simple anymore. There's a lot more red tape, all that type of stuff in order to even obtain a firearm. And so for that reason, we're now at a point where it's more important to maintain your firearms and keep them in good functional shape than it was in the past. Okay? Also, if it's, an heirloom gun that you got from your grandfather or dad or whatever, and you want to pass it on to your kids or grandkids and maybe even your great-grandkids someday, that's something that you want to take care of, right? And taking care of it means replacing broken parts or worn parts and refinishing it when needed. Okay? And some people are like, oh, well, no, that ruins the patina, and the parts aren't matching and all that stuff. Well, you know what? 50 or 100 years from now, if you replace the broken and worn out parts on your gun and you refinish it, your kids and grandkids and so on and so forth are going to be out hunting with your gun and thinking of you. Okay? You know what your neighbor's kids, your neighbor who's obsessed with patina and matching numbers, you know what his kids are going to be doing with his gun in 100 years or 50 years? They're going to be sitting around in the living room looking at it above the fireplace at an old piece of crap that hasn't worked in years. Okay? That's the result. That's what sticking to matching numbers and patina is going to do. Okay? Because, again, guns are a man-made product. Nothing man-made lasts forever. You have to upkeep them. You have to maintain them. And would it be cool to keep them all original? Absolutely. But don't be afraid to, update them and refurbish them as needed so that they're still functional and you can still use and enjoy them. Okay? Especially if it's a family heirloom. And what difference, like we talked a little bit in the first of the video, if you find an old shotgun or something at a yard sale and just want to resell it. Okay, that's one thing. So then in that case, you worry a little bit more about the marketable value. But if you're going to pass it on to your kids and grandkids and all that, and they have the same sentiment that you do and want to keep it and pass it on to their kids, what difference does marketable value really make? It doesn't make any sense to me. To me, that idea is just absolute foolishness. Absolute foolishness. So if you have a gun that you are thinking about restoring or rebluing or replacing some parts on because they don't work anymore, or are getting worn out or whatever, don't be afraid to do it. Okay? Keep your guns functional. Keep them in good shape so that they will last. Okay? That's my 2 cents on it. I know a lot of collectors and older school people. I'm pretty old school on most things, but I also believe in preserving part of the past, and sometimes preserving it means refinishing it and things like that. So anyway, there's going to be probably a lot of people that disagree with me, and there might be quite a few that agree with me as well. I don't know, but that's my 2 bits. Keep your guns in good shape. Don't be afraid to replace parts or refinish them if you need to in order to keep them functional for succeeding generations. Anyway, I hope you have enjoyed this video. Let me know in the likes and comments whether or not you agree or disagree with some of the things I just said. But anyway, I appreciate your time, and we'll talk to you again soon. Bye-bye.